What is up, everybody? Welcome to another Tuesday night. That means another edition of Drive for Show, DFS for Dough here on RotoGrinders. Happy to be talking FedEx Cup playoffs with you this week. You've got myself, Justin Van Zuiden, alongside my usual co-host, Derek Farnsworth, aka Notorious. We've got the first of 3 FedEx Cup playoff events this week with the FedEx St. Jude Championship. And we'll break that down here for you over the next 45 minutes or so. Take a quick look back at last week. Noto, how you doing?
Yeah, doing well. Wasn't the best week for me last week, but it's good to be back on the show. Good to be back in the swing of things. And yeah, now we get to enjoy the playoffs, and then football will be here, and Ryder Cup, all the good stuff.
Yeah, kind of an upside-down leaderboard there last week, and Cam Young showed Tommy Fleetwood that the way to win your first event in the U.S. is just to get a lead big enough that nobody can catch you, which is what he did, and ended up coasting to a 6-shot victory. So kudos to Cam Young. After Noto and I both completely mushed him earlier in the year, he's been lights out since then. So it was pretty impressive to see him win that comfortably. Really good rounds. In the middle, second, third round of the tournament, allowed him to get that big lead. He was 20 under heading into the final round. I believe he was ahead by 5 or 6 heading into that final round, and was able to pretty much coast from there with no major hiccups on that Sunday scorecard. So it was a little bit of a strange leaderboard. The other kind of bigger names in the top 10, you had Alex Noren, Aaron Rye, Matt Fitzpatrick continued his recent run with a top 10 finish. Ben Griffin, Davis Thompson just outside the top 10. And Matty Schmid was able to hold down the last FedEx Cup playoff spot. So he finished 70th overall with 619 points. Davis Thompson was the first player out. Despite that 11th place finish last week, came up just short, 615 points. So he's a little over 4 points short of where Schmid ended up. So Schmid, Cam Davis, Eric Van Rooyen, and Grillo take home the last 4 playoff spots, and they will get to tee it up this week. Anything else that caught your attention with last week's leaderboard there?
Man, after Thursday, I thought I made 2 main lineups last week. I thought both of them had a pretty good chance of 6-6. Like, my good golfers were right around the cut line. My bad golfers were well above the cut line. So I was feeling good. And then, man, everyone imploded on Friday. So 6-6 was pretty low. My 6-6 was 0. Did you have any more success?
Yeah, no, it wasn't the greatest week for me. I did not have hardly any exposure to the guys. Just a couple of those towards the bottom of the top 10 there, but no Cam Young. Bud Cauley was a whiff. Kevin Roy was a whiff. Like, my guys that I took around 7K, there was 4 or 5 of them that were pretty much just whiffs. So most of my lineups had one guy in that range that I missed on. So yeah, it was not the strongest week here either, but I did not go super heavy last week. That tournament is a little unpredictable with the last week before the playoffs, and we had a lot going on last weekend. So it was a lighter week for me. I have to go back and check the results of the snake draft, because for a while I was leading that, but I know I did not end up winning that. So we did the snake draft for the first time in a while. I finished 3rd, which was, of course, 1 spot out of the money, and Noto 4th and producer Steve 5th. So once again, we comprised 50% of the field, Team RG, and we did not cash. So we donated money to those of you who did join, but we'll see if we can maybe fill one again tonight. And arguably, I think this week is the most important playoff week outside, right? You throw the money aside, obviously, for winning the Tour Championship, but just in terms of going forward, this week seems to be the most critical week, because only the top 50 of the current 70, only the top 50 move on next week. And those 50 golfers are the ones that get guaranteed status into the elevated events for next year, which we know most of those are no-cut events with much bigger prizes for the golfers in terms of purse money. And that's what they're playing for this week. So these guys that are outside that top 50 now, or barely inside the top 50, I think really got a lot to play for this week. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out throughout the week. But in terms of, that narrative and the movement among the standings, I find this week to be the most enjoyable of the playoff events. Like next week, you're down to a much more limited field. And the final week, you're down to 30, and they never know how to operate that event. But they tried the starting score gimmick for a while. This is really the playoff event that kind of grabs me as far as intrigue, especially with all these elevated events now. So, these guys are particularly, some of the guys that maybe haven't had a tour card for very long. They're really playing for a lot here.
Yeah, I like this week too. And there's a lot of big names right around the bubble. I mean, Jordan Spieth, 48th, Wyndham Clark, 49th. Finau's all the way down to 60th. So a lot of the names we've gotten used to seeing, even on like the Ryder Cup and stuff, might not even be getting into the biggest events next year, which is kind of interesting. And then a guy like Matty Fitz, I mean, he's had a huge stretch here the last 4 events. If it wasn't for that, he probably wouldn't even be in this event. So I like this event quite a bit. I like the course. It always reminds me of when Will Zalatoris beat Seb Straka in that like third playoff hole on 17. He hit it in the rocks, and then Seb Straka, all he had to do was hit the green and 2-putt to win, and he hit it in the water, and then the rest was history. But I like the event. I'm excited for it. I wish there was a cut, but I won't complain too much.
Yeah, if you would have told me a few months ago that Tony Finau would end up 60th in the standings and Chris Goddard would be 22nd, I would have looked at you very strangely. But that's the land we're living in right now. So we've got the top 70 qualified for this week, and again, only the top 50. And I mean, I can't narrate to you like what the points are worth this week or how they, these events are worth more points. So I'm not going to try to break that down on here. It's largely irrelevant for our purposes. But Rory McIlroy, who is second behind only Scheffler, is the only golfer who's elected not to play this week. So the field size down from 70 to 69. They are not replacing Rory with anybody. The 71st person doesn't get in just because he decided not to play. So Rory will get no points for this week. He'll still be up near the top of the list anyways. So that's what we've got in store this week. FedEx St. Jude Championship at TPC Southwind in Memphis. A course that for a while was a WGC event. It was a regular PGA Tour event for a while, and now, the WGC events are gone, and it's kind of taken its home as the first playoff event. So your reward, if you finish in the top 70, is 4 days of Memphis heat in August, which does not sound like a whole lot of fun, but I guess, if you're playing for a good chunk of money, you'll deal with the heat. But what do we know outside of the fact that it's probably going to be hot about the course this week?
Yeah, speaking of humidity, Lucas Glover's pants went viral at this event a couple years ago.
I saw that.
Poor guy, just wearing tan pants, and they didn't respond too well. But it's a par 70, just under 7,300 yards. The winning score is always like between 13 and 17, so not too difficult, not too easy. Kind of one of those middle of the pack courses that we like. The fairways are narrow, but unlike most par 70s, guys hit a ton of drivers here. Last year, they hit driver on 82% of tee shots, which is way above the tour average. So it's not a less than driver course like we saw last week. Greens are pretty small. They're pretty difficult to hit on average, but scrambling is kind of easy here. The success rate's pretty high. So I wouldn't worry too much about around the green. And we've seen a lot of bad putters play well here in the past, so I'm not too worried about putting as much this week as well. Kind of looking for really good ball strikers. Water's in play on 11 of the 18 holes, so guys that can avoid bogeys probably going to be what you need. But then also with the no-cut event, you might want to chase some birdie makers too, because there's going to be guys that outscore their finishing position. So yeah, a little bit of everything: ball striking, bogey avoidance, birdie or better percentage for me.
I had to laugh. I searched up the Lucas Glover pants situation again, and the first result I got on Twitter was that his pants were looking like a bag of fries from Five Guys. So that's just cruel. You don't have to go that far.
I mean, that's a good comp, though.
It is a good comp. Fries grease soaking through the bag. But it's Memphis in August, and it's hot, and that's going to happen to the best of us. But I would imagine he'll probably wear a darker color of pant to compensate for the embarrassment from a couple years ago, whenever that was. All right. Same type of golfers for me, the tee to green guys. Don't mind looking at par 4 scoring a little bit this week with a par 70. And an interesting course where there's a nice mix of, you can make some birdies, but also that trouble awaiting you if you're a little too wayward with those shots. So it is a good all-around test. I think we haven't had a winning score, get into the 18 plus under par range for quite some time here. So it's not a course that's going to play to that 30 under type of score that we see sometimes on the PGA Tour. But with that, let's go ahead and dig into it here. I'll get out of last week's snake draft results that we had on DraftKings. I will pull up this week's contests. Plenty of big GPPs out there again this week. So and we've got Scheffler back in the mix. So we didn't have to talk about Scheffler last week. We had a very low high end on the pricing scale, but now we've got Scheffler back this week at 13,000 on DraftKings. This is a no-cut event, as Noto alluded to earlier. So Scheffler usually gets the conversation by himself. Dude hasn't finished outside the top 10 since, let's see, the Players in March was his last finish outside the top 10. So 5 months ago, 8th or better in every start since then. He's 13K on DraftKings, no cut event. What do we do with Scheffler?
Yeah, oftentimes my interest in Scheffler hinges on the other guys in the 10Ks and the 9Ks, because Scheffler's a great play every week. You can make a case for him. And I just don't love anybody above 9K besides Scheffler. So I'm probably going to be overweight on him, probably going to use him in all my single entry stuff. You mentioned his great form since the Players, 4th here last year. He's never won this event, but just another box that I think he's going to check eventually, probably this week. 3-1 in the outright market. The next closest is Xander, like 16-1. So yeah, I'll probably be overweight on Scheffler. What are you planning to do?
Yeah, I think I'll be overweight this week. You just look at the fact that, the type of challenge this course presents where you can't really hide a weakness. And you've got a guy that basically has no weakness now that he's developed the ability to putt, well above average consistently. I think the value options are okay. Kind of with you on the rest of this 10K plus range where I think there is a drop off. We don't have Rory this week. And even if Scheffler brings his, B game, it's probably good enough to be there in the mix. With the way that he's been playing throughout his bag. I mean, you look at, if I filter it by 36 rounds, first in total strokes, first in ball striking, first in approach, 5th in putting, 5th off the tee, 8th around the green. I mean, there's nobody that touches those kind of metrics. And you just got to play him, I think, particularly in a no-cut format. The raw points matter so much. And there's going to be a value guy that goes off that somebody rosters. And even if there's not a lot of them, somebody's going to have the right guy. So I think overweight on Scheffler. I put in my article that I would probably do 50% plus, 50 to 60, I would guess. Our projected ownership was around 40, which may evolve as we get closer, and probably a little higher on FanDuel. But yeah, I think I'm going to be overweight as well. It just makes sense this week to me.
Same.
All right. And if you look at, these next guys down, and Schauffele, and I mean, it's fine, but hasn't really had the upside season, even comparative to Scheffler. Though he did play well overseas for a couple weeks there. We'll see if he can translate that back to the States. Thomas had a really good start to the year, but has faded since then. Henley's really consistent. I don't have anything bad to say about Henley. He's probably been the other guy in this top tier that has been showcasing the upside as much as Scheffler. In fact, if you sort this field by top 10s on the year, Henley is second. So, Henley would probably be the other guy above 10K, or he's right at 10K. If you want to board the Xander train, I get it. I'm probably not doing that at 11-1. That still feels a bit steep for the way he's played this year. I would actually probably rank the next 3 guys above 10K in the reverse order that they're priced. Henley, Thomas, Xander. It's not a strong take. I'll definitely have Henley in my pool. What are you doing with the rest of these guys?
I'm kind of with you. I think they're fine plays in a vacuum, but they all feel overpriced. Henley at 10K. I mean, I know the form's been good. The course fit is really good. He's a guy that gains a lot of strokes with his irons and with his putter, so you got to like that this week. But man, it just feels like a lot for me. JT, I do come up with the expected strokes gained approach each week, and he's number 2 behind Scheffler. A lot of it has to do with his wedge play. So there's going to be a lot of approach shots from 100 to 175 yards. But man, he could easily come out and finish like 60th. You know, that's not the case with a lot of the guys above 9K. So his low floor kind of makes me nervous. And then Xander, I don't know. We know him and Cantlay love money. So this is kind of the time of the year where they usually play their best. They both have excellent track records in the playoffs. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Xander or Cantlay, which we'll get to in a minute, play well. But yeah, 11-1 is just kind of a tough pill for me to swallow.
Yeah, I am probably limited exposure on him for those reasons. I'll have some Henley, haven't decided how much yet. Thomas on the fringe, depending on how the rest of my player pool shakes out. All right, let's go to the next range. We've got a lot of the European golfers kind of in this tier. Tommy Fleetwood still can't win in the U.S. We'll see if he can finally get that off his back at some point. Fitzpatrick, whose arrow has been pointing straight up for a couple of months now. Yet another top 10 finish for him last week. That's 4 in a row of 8th or better. Ludwig, Hovland, Morikawa, and Cantlay, the other options above 9K. I know Noto just referenced Cantlay there, and is probably on him this week. I am probably a little less excited about Cantlay, but I don't play him a whole lot. My favorite in this range is actually probably going to be Hovland, and that concerns me. Hovland's not a guy that I flag plant on quite a bit, but the last 2 years he has really thrived in these playoff events. He had a second place finish here last year, had a couple of I think maybe 3 straight top 20s. I put it in my article. I have to pull that up, but the year before. So he's done really well in these playoff events the last couple years. He's saying the right things now about how his game has come around in terms of the chipping, and the stats still aren't great, but at least seems a little more confident now. And if you look at his finishes the last 5 years at this event, progressively better each time: 59, 36, 20th, 13th, and 2nd. So I do like Hovland this week at 9,300 for GPPs. I mean, you probably don't have to play him in cash games. You could go with the red hot Fitzpatrick or Fleetwood, or even Cantlay. Those guys are probably a little bit safer, but I do like the upside from Hovland this week. Anything else on these 9K and up guys for you?
Yeah, Hovland was kind of my gut play coming into the week, so I didn't think both of us would like him.
Yeah, that's pretty rare.
I didn't write him up, but yeah, he's kind of one of those guys that turns it on this time of year. You mentioned the course history, and he's just a really good ball striker. So the short game, if he is hitting greens at a high rate, I don't think that's going to be a big concern. I don't know what to do with Matty Fitz. I mean, he's been awesome. The ball striking numbers are back. He's got a couple of top 6 finishes here. I bet him in the winner without Scotty Scheffler market. So I think that's kind of my way to get exposure to Fitz, because he's been playing so well, but 9,700 feels like a lot. Then I mentioned Cantlay at the very bottom. I just think he's a safe option, but you can't really play him with Scheffler anyway. So I don't know how much exposure I'm going to end up having to Cantlay. What about Morikawa? I mean, perfect course for him, but fired his caddy, then was nearly dead last his last 2 times out. Yeah. Is there any way we can play Morikawa? He's going to be low owned.
Yeah, he will be. I mean, in theory, it's a great fit, but golf is such a fickle game that when you see these kind of stretches, guys just take. It's very rare that you see guys go from finishing, at the bottom to just first or second right after that, and there's just so much baggage, if you will, because of that stuff at the moment. I don't think I can right now. It feels weird to not consider him, but I think I'm out.
Yeah, same. I think if I was building 100, I'd maybe go 10 Morikawa lineups, but I'm probably just doing a couple.
Yeah, probably not hitting your 3 max builds or anything like that. I wouldn't argue against putting them in a multi-entry GPP type of contest for sure. All right, so let's go ahead and move down into the 8K range here. And again, reminder, no cut this week. and it is just the top 70 golfers in the standing. So a lot of these guys towards the bottom are, going to be a little bit cheaper than they usually are just because of the way the salary structure works with a field like this. But 8Ks, Burns, Matsuyama, Straka. I was kind of surprised Straka's still third in the standings. His form has dipped a lot. If you look at, let's see, 52nd, 7th, 45th, miscut, 3rd, miscut. So it's just been a little more up and down over the last couple of months. But the up has been, he's had a lot of top finishes, which is what helps those FedEx points. But anyway, he's 8,700. Keegan having a great summer. Corey Connors, Harris English, Aaron Rye. Last week's winner, Cam Young. Speaking of having great seasons, you got Ben Griffin and Chris Gotterup, who've both been fantastic. Rounding out the 8K range, lots of different angles you can take here. I'll let you have this group first. Who are you looking at in the 8,000s?
Yeah, I'm kind of going with the guys that have been model poppers all year. One, Ben Griffin, 8,100. He did miss 2 cuts recently, but they were both right on the number. If you zoom out a little bit over his last 9 events, he's got 7 top 15s, including a win. He's just gotten so much better with the driver. He's actually 26th in this field over the last 3 months and show scanned off the tee. And then when you combine that with everything else, should be a really good course fit for him. Aaron Rye makes a lot of sense at a course like this. Harris English has been red hot with his irons. We've talked about him, for many years. When he starts getting the irons going, that's when you want to play Harris English because we know the putter's always going to be good. He's a good scrambler. And, over the last few months, he's been really good with the irons. So I like him at 84. Griffin and Rye, and then probably it for me. I might take a few shots on Straka, like you mentioned. Probably going to be underweight on Cam Young and Gotterup, but doesn't feel great because this is kind of the time of year where guys get hot and stay hot. We've seen that a lot over the years, so fading them worries me a little bit.
Yeah, and Cam Young's odds are the best of this range, but I'm probably out on him as well. Hasn't played well here the last couple of years. I'll take Griffin at 81. And I'll probably have a little bit more Gotterup. I'm okay with him, depending on where that ownership ends up. I think he might end up checking in a little bit lower than what we have right now, but we'll see. I'll wait to make a decision on him. Definitely in on Griffin. And the other guy that I think is interesting in this range is Hideki, who I haven't played in a while, but he's actually connected 3 top 20s in a row. And this is a course that he's always played really well at. He won here last year. He's got a second here. He's got a couple other top 20s. So he's kind of quietly one of those guys that tends to play the same courses well. And the fact that the form has come around for the first time in quite a while, when he's on, he can be just as good as some of those 9K guys. So I'll throw Hideki in some tournament lineups as well. Again, he's another guy that's probably not the safe cash game type of play. That would be Griffin for sure. At 8,100, but I'll throw some Hideki and some GPP lineups this week.
Yeah, if he gets the driver going, I think he could be dangerous for sure.
Definitely a little risky, but I like the fact that he's at least connected a few strong finishes in a row. Speaking of connecting strong finishes in a row, we talked about my boy Harry Hall last week, and I said I was going to keep playing him till the ship sinks. The ship hasn't sank yet. Harry Hall hasn't missed a cut since the Players, and his last 10, I believe, have all been 28th or better. So, that's 20th, 19th, 6th, 24th, 9th, 13th, 17th, 28th, and that was at the Open Championship. Not a great course for him. And then 15th at the Wyndham. So the PGA Tour events, that's 9 straight top 25s. He's lights out with the putter. Basically every week. The rest of his, he's just not a bomber off the tee, but the approach numbers are solid, not spectacular. And he's got the best putter in the field. So I'll keep playing Harry Hall, especially at 7.9K. He's never played here, and our projected ownership is pretty modest on him. But again, I got to keep playing him till the boat sinks. It hasn't yet. This is probably the longest a boat of mine has stayed afloat for a while. So Harry Hall at 7.9K, a guy I like quite a bit. There's quite a few other names in the upper part of the 7Ks here. Spieth, Bobby Mack, Daniel Berger, among others. McNeely, Knapp in here as well. 7,500 and up. Anybody you like in here?
Yeah, I genuinely don't understand how Hall has been so consistent when you rely so much on short game, which tends to be more volatile than ball striking.
It hasn't been.
But he just does it every week. Top 25, let's see, 11 or 12 straight top 35 finishes. It's just wild. During that stretch, he's had 2, 3, 4 positive ball striking weeks. So just gets it done with the putter every week. Gets it done.
Has there been a negative putting week in there at all? Has there been one?
Yeah, and he gained 8.3 ball striking that week.
There you go. If the putter lets him down the irons to come around.
So yeah, I don't have any problems with Harry Hall. Daniel Berger, this used to be the event where we'd play him every year. He won it twice. He's finished second. He's finished fifth. And if you look at his recent numbers, it's just really bad putter, really bad around the green. I don't know. I've had a mixed bag of results with Daniel Berger, so I'm going to play him, but don't feel great about it. But this is a course that he loves. The model loves Robert McIntyre. He's been really consistent this year. He's been good on par 70s. He's been good on at this course. He's got a 7th and a 15th here the last 2 appearances. And then at 7,500, Matt McNeely, just play him every week pretty much. He's been a top 25 machine, so I'll continue to play him after T12 here last year.
Yeah, I'm on McNeely as well. I think he's probably your safest play from this range. I'm in agreement on maybe mixing Berger into some tournament lineups. And then, of course, I think Harry Hall is fine also. So probably not too much exposure to anyone else in that 7.5 to 7.9K range. Let's take it down to the bottom end of the 7Ks. The best odds in here would be Lowry at about 55 or 60 to 1. He's at 7,400. Kitayama, who won a couple weeks back, obviously. Lucas Glover, despite the pants, first and a third here the last 2 times he's played at 7,000. I don't really like a whole lot in this 7K to 7,500 range. I don't mind throwing Glover into the GPP pool or Kitayama. I don't have a strong, I've got to play this guy take on anybody between 7K and 7,400. Anybody that's popping for you in here.
If you're taking the driver heavy course angle, Taylor Pendrith makes some sense here. One of the better drivers of the ball in the field. Pretty good long iron player, wedge player. And then, I don't know, the form's been hit or miss, but in a no-cut event, I'd like his upside at this price point. That's pretty much it for me. Chris Kirk has been playing well. He's got 4 top 15s in his last 6 starts. So if you want to look at him, he was one of those guys that when we first started playing DFS golf, I think he got hot in the playoffs once, won a couple events back-to-back. Him and Billy Horschel one year. But that's it for me. Don't mind Lowry, like you said. Don't mind Glover, but don't feel great about him.
Yeah, no piping hot takes for me in that range. And we'll go ahead and move down into the value range here. Before we do that, let's maybe see if we can fire in a snake draft here. Again, if you're not familiar, DraftKings Golf has a snake draft format, so you'll filter by golf. We'll go to snake. We'll try to find a 5-man. Let's see. There's a 5-man that is already 2 of 6.
That works.
And there's actually an entrant in here that is drive for show 15, which is wild. It's a new user, though. It doesn't have the badge on DraftKings. All right, we'll join that one. So we are entries 3 and 4. So now we've got to need 2 more to fill a 6-man snake draft. We'll see if we can do that here. All right. 6Ks. Like some options in here a little bit more than those lower 7s. Grazerman's a guy that seems a little bit surprising that he's priced all the way down here. And Sam Stevens is another guy that I like quite a bit. Finished really well a couple weeks ago. That kind of secured his playoff spot. So I'm not that concerned about last week. He kind of maybe took the pedal off the gas a little bit because he had secured his spot the week before. Still pretty good metrics overall. When I put my mixed condition model together on Betsperts this week, I think he came out 11th, which is pretty high. Wouldn't rank him that high if I was just ranking everybody top to bottom, but at 6.7K in a no-cut event, I think Stevens is fine. Kevin Yu, if you're playing the driver angle, anybody you like in the 6Ks.
Yeah, I have an unreal track record with Sam Stevens. Every time I play him, he finishes second. So maybe I should play him this week.
Hop on. I'd be all right with second.
I didn't write him up, but yeah, I might end up getting on him. Siwoo Kim's popping if you're looking at just point per dollar stuff. Good ball striker, good tee to green guy. I like Emiliano Grillo. He's got 3 top 35s here in a row. He's been playing well. The irons have been pretty good. And then a little bit of trivia for you. Sungjae Yim finally gained strokes with his irons last week. How many events in a row had he lost prior to that?
Ooh, I feel like you might have mentioned this last week. I'm gonna go with 11.
16.
Oh,
great events. How does that happen? He used to be like,
yeah, that's a lot. I knew it was a lot, but I wouldn't have guessed that high.
A good iron player. I don't know, but he gained 0.4 strokes last week, so he's back.
0.4 is not negative. Our draft is full, and we're starting in 15 seconds. But Noto and I have the last 2 picks, so no need to rush. But I will take over the screen share from Steve. Anybody else you like in the 6Ks there?
If you're chasing bomber, birdie angle, Kevin Yu is 6,600 isn't too bad. That's pretty much it. Ryan Gerard's had a really good season. Don't mind looking at him.
Yeah, he was the other guy I put on my short list. I'll probably end up having a couple of those guys in my pool as well. All right, well, no Scheffler for us, picking 5 and 6. We'll this will be interesting with us picking right next to each other, and at the end/beginning of rounds, we know who each other likes, so can play for the block if you want to be mean about it. Henley at 5 feels like a no-brainer there.
Yeah, that was a good one. It's in. Ooh, we got to take Hovland then.
All right, I'll go Fleetwood and Henley.
You got the safe guys. I got the
Fleetwood's gonna get it done one of these years. I forget who it was. I saw somebody posted that if you bet $100 on Cam Young to win all of his PGA Tour starts in his career, he'd still be down $3,200. Despite
like
last week.
now before he won. That was me.
Cruising through it here, even though we had a couple people waiting in the lobby. Maybe they were just waiting on us. They knew we were coming. All right, we're on the clock again here. Well, take Ben Griffin from you.
Somebody take English already?
Yeah, I think he was in the middle of that round. First pick of the 3rd round.
We didn't talk about Connors much.
Yeah, he's just kind of fine. He's fine.
Did you see Spieth's quotes?
I did not.
He's really close, and next year is going to be the big year. I don't know how you can predict, 4 months from now, but next year.
That's what my mother-in-law says when she's going to the slot machines. And he's off the board. That quote was enough to sway D. Rich into taking him.
If he's really close, why not next week or this week?
He's got to get those new clubs ordered first that he's going to play well with. Bryson's going to help design him some clubs.
3D print him some.
Yeah. All right. I got a bunch of safe guys. Henley, Fleetwood, Griffin, and Harry Hall. We got to go away from the safe here for a few picks. So Daniel Berger it is.
Don't do it. No.
I wasn't even trying to snipe him from you. I figure I better go get some risk reward guys.
I was hovering over the draft button.
Yeah, I don't have a strong take on these next 6, 8, 10 guys, really. They're all just kind of fine. Let's go with Grazerman. Flying through this thing. Kudos to everybody for being on the ball.
This feels like a Poston course. Has he played well here?
He 33rd, 24th, 20th, 30th. So about as middle of the pack as you can get.
Okay. How about Fitzpatrick last week? Made like a 20-footer on his final hole to make the cut on the number and then just went nuts on the weekend.
Yeah, that's always interesting when you look at how different weeks could be when cut lines move versus not. It's fascinating. That's part of the reason why it's fun to have a cut.
Yeah.
Boy, I just don't have a strong take on anybody else, really. Let's go with Kevin Yu here. All right, I almost took Relo, but if he wins, you can thank me. Henley, Fleetwood, Griffin, Hall, Berger, Grazerman, Kevin Yu for me. Fitz, Hovland, Connors, Matsuyama, Pendrith, Lowry, and Grillo for Noto. And that's the snake draft for this week. That one flew by. So thanks everybody for hopping in and drafting. We'll see what this week brings. And with that, we'll put a bow on the show for this week. We'll be back next week for the BMW, which is, I forget, is that one that they're still moving around, or have they finally planted that in that Chicago area course now? Let's see.
I don't know. Always seems to be Northeast,
it's
Midwest.
Yeah, it's moved. It's at Caves Valley in Owings Mills, Maryland next week. That's where the BMW is. So,
okay, got to play Keegan.
Northeast. Keegan in the Northeast, and so let's see. Where was last year's BMW? That was at Castle Pines, which is in Colorado, and Keegan won that. So, hey, he won in Colorado. He can certainly win in Maryland. So, all right. So we got Caves Valley in Maryland next week before the Tour Championship in Atlanta. We'll bring you shows for those. Probably be a little bit shorter. We're down to 50 golfers next week, and then 30 the week after that. And then we get a few weeks off before the September. There's one of the fall events before the Ryder Cup. So it'll be a little bit of a wonky schedule, but we'll take you through it, and we'll be back next week for sure for the BMW. So with that, for Noto, I'm Justin. Thanks to Steve for working hard, producing behind the scenes as always for us. We thank you all for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Appreciate that very much. And until then, we'll catch you next time, everybody. See you later.